Welcome to the Midland Moment Podcast, the podcast dedicated to telling the story of Midland through the eyes of our employees. I'm your host, Jeremy Wiltz. We have a special guest with us today, Amy McNelly. Amy serves as our financial planning analyst and actually was a part of V&A with the V&A acquisition. So we'll get to talk to her a little bit about that. And she has been with V&A for the past year and has now moved over to Midland and is working on both sides for V&A, Midland, and Community Care Hospice. So we'll get to talk a little bit about that. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
So, Amy, give me a little bit of your background. You'll probably have to, I was talking before the podcast, you probably have to tell people what a financial planning analyst is, because I just said you just tell me how much money we have and what I'm doing right and what I'm doing not right. So give us a little bit of your background before we get started.
So I grew up here in Kansas City, and I got an accounting degree at William Jewell in Liberty, Missouri, and then started my career. I did corporate accounting for a couple different organizations, and then my husband's job led us away, and I took a little break from accounting world and did some stuff in some schools, hung out with kiddos, and then got back, moved to Florida and worked at a CPA firm and did taxes and accounting. And then once that time in Florida stopped, we came back here to Kansas City, and I was looking for a job and found a staff accountant position open at V&A. Got into V&A as their staff accountant. And then when Midland acquired V&A, there was a financial planning analyst position open. So that's how I came to that position. And basically what I do, I still provide all of the entries and things at V&A that has to be done. So I keep their regular accounting going. But in addition, I've working on the budgeting right now with Daniel for Midland, and then look over the financials to see of any trends, things that might look out of whack that need to be adjusted, and help communicate that to the leaders so that they know what's going on.
And I think that's a cool position for those of you that are maybe this is the first time you're listening. Like that's a brand new position for Midland, which is super fun to have and has been essential as we continue to grow. As we've talked about this on this podcast, what excites us about the future of where we're going. This is a big part of that is understanding exactly what the financial impact of that is. And I think it's really for me, it really, you're looking there, and by doing what you do, you're able to allow our caregivers to take care of more people and understand how that all works. So when you came to V&A, what led you to V&A? What made you want to work at V&A?
Well, I think working for a nonprofit is kind of a special thing. You know that you're doing a greater good for the community and the people around you. So that was something that definitely drew me in. Knowing especially end of life care, how important that is to the community, and that we're able to provide those services to people whether they can afford it or not.
And since you are actually our first V&A person on the podcast, and you're kind of a hybrid because you were at V&A, you're at Midland now, you work out of the Kansas City office with V&A, and you're kind of embedded in that culture, but you've also got to be a little bit embedded with this culture. Can you tell us a little bit? We'll talk through a little bit, but tell us a little bit about the history of V&A from your side of things. And I mean, it's founded in 1889, 1891, kind of like well over 100 years old of providing care, and just a cool not-for-profit story. So anything that you'd want to share about V&A and kind of its history?
I think it's, like you said, it's been around for a long time. We've been able to service a lot of members of the community. It's a pretty well-known name in Kansas City because it is one of the first hospices that was there. I think we have a really strong home health program, and we've been able to, we service a lot of people through that. And so it's just nice to work for a place where you do touch a lot of members of the community.
And for those listening, so V&A of Kansas City is, from what I remember, the sixth oldest home health in the country, which is kind of crazy to think about. Has hospice and home health, works on both sides of the state line, mostly in the Kansas City metro, but especially on the Missouri side, extends out into very rural areas, almost to Clinton, Missouri, Warrensburg, kind of out in those areas. So as of July 1st, V&A became what we would call an affiliate of Midland Care. So V&A is under the Midland Care umbrella, but it keeps its own brand and its own identity. But a lot of the back office support, like finance and those sorts of things, have transitioned over to be run centrally out of Midland, which kind of brings us to your transition over from VNA to Midland. And you've been here for a few months now, probably 60, 90 days, somewhere kind of in that realm. You're making that transition. And so what have you seen from Midland that is either the same as VNA or complements VNA, or you feel like, that makes you want to work both for Midland and VNA?
I think one of the coolest things that I've seen at Midland is some of your programs that VNA doesn't offer, such as Meals on Wheels. The amount of people that Meals on Wheels touches in this area is incredible. That is a lot of work that you guys put in with a ton of volunteers. And that part is really unique to see. I think that you can get so many people to come in and step in and really serve the community just for the greater good. So things like that, I think it's exciting that you have those programs that we don't offer that helps make the partnership that much better.
Yeah, and for those listening, Midland Care Meals on Wheels, it was actually Meals on Wheels of Eastern Kansas before. It was rebranded Midland Care Meals on Wheels this year as a program that Midland Care has run for the last several years. We prepare about 12 to 1,300 meals a day and serve those, and use almost 1,000 volunteers a year to deliver those routes. And so it is a really cool program. For anyone interested in finding out more, you can look at our website. You could also donate there if that's something that you would like to do. So tell us, at your time at VNA and Midland, are there any stories or examples of the values that you find important? And you talked about working for a not-for-profit and having purpose. What are the things you've seen either through employees or through patient stories that you feel like really exemplify those values?
I don't know that I have any particular patient stories, because being in finance, we're more of a support team, so we don't actually get to see a lot of the things that go on in the field. But I feel like we just have a really great group of people that come together to do their jobs the best of their ability and serve those people that they need to serve. We, from clinicians, CNAs to nurse practitioners, clinical managers to our executive director, like we are just a big team and we work together to serve those.
Yeah, and I think that really is important to see. And we talk about it on this podcast all the time, like regardless of position, that you're pushing the mission forward. And we've seen that through you. I was really excited from the first time I met you about the potential and possibilities of Midland and VNA and finance and all of those things together. And you do a wonderful job of moving us forward in our mission through that. So as we look kind of to the future, we're few months into the VNA transition, you're a few months into being officially a Midland employee. What excites you about the future of both the two organizations going together, and then also just kind of the future in general of Midland?
Well, I think that we're just growing our footprint. I think we're being able to now, as being a combined unit, being able to serve that many more areas and people, which is really nice that we can reach outside areas that we necessarily wouldn't have been able to on our own. And bringing together some different ideas, things that Midland has that maybe we can utilize at VNA, or things that VNA is strong in that maybe Midland can look at and be able to utilize on their side. So I think if you can take the strengths from both and put them together, then we're going to go a really far way.
Yeah, and I think that's essential to kind of highlight, is that between Community Care Hospice, which for those of you that haven't heard that before, that's a joint venture hospice that's out in central Kansas, goes from kind of Salina to Wichita, that we're a minority owner in, that we help manage with 13 senior living facilities. And then there's Midland Care's footprint, and then there's also VNA's footprint. And if you put all of those counties together, we now, with Midland and all of its affiliates, cover about 40 counties between Kansas and Missouri. And I haven't added up the square miles, but it's a lot of footprint and a lot of people that we get to help. So I always like to ask kind of like a pop-up question at the end, more of a fun question, something that just to talk about something outside of work. So when you were a kid, what was your dream job? Was it CPA? Was it accountant? Was it, what did you want to be when Amy was a kid? What did she want to be when she grew up?
I don't know any normal people who think that CPA or accountant is what they want to do with their life as a child. I wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher, and I thought that was the way I was going to go. And then when I got to college and did my first semester, I took an accounting class and fell in love. So that's how I ended up where I'm at.
That's awesome. Well, Amy, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. And like I said, we're so excited that you're a part of the Midland team. We're excited to continue to grow as Midland and VNA as we move forward.
Thank you.